Come on, how many are thankful you're at a church that loves kids and loves the next generation? We love to take an opportunity like that and allow them to just come and be a part. They are a part. They are the church. They're not a different church. And so we celebrate and honor them. We have had an amazing weekend here at Heights. Hosted our very first ever church Diamond Student Night on Friday night, which was unbelievable. And there's so many reports that are coming in, and before we just go and dive in all that, the team just put together a quick 1-minute recap. When you watch this, it's going to make you want to be 16 all over again. But take a look at our very first student night. We completely transformed this whole entire auditorium into an environment that would make it easy. I said for people to see Jesus, which it did. It was awesome. Played bubble soccer in here, and just celebrating the fact that because of a church like this, Friday night, our very first ever student night, we celebrated over 50 students, come on, making a decision for Jesus Christ, which we said it was going to happen. And it did, and it was amazing. And just want to say thank you. If you don't know anything about our church, or if you don't know me, I'm Josh Whitlam, I'm the lead pastor here, and we're passionate about helping people see Jesus and leading people to experience the God who can change their life. And that's what every single weekend is all about. And so if you're here and you're visiting, man, we want to just say welcome home to you. We're so glad that you're here. We don't think you could have picked a better time to come visit our church this weekend. Everything that we've been doing has been leading up to these events and Diamond Night and Heights Kids Takeover and leading into our serve events that are going to be happening all summer long. And so today is all about the next generation and all about raising up future leaders, come on, that are going to change the world for Jesus. Hello, not just our trust, our hope isn't in government or programs. It's in Jesus, y'all. Are y'all there? It's not in anything else. It's in Jesus. And so we're just all in, and a big part of that is what we're doing today. And you're in for a special treat this morning. One of our executive director on our staff that leads the whole entire next gen bucket is our very own Kati Whiting, and she's actually the first person that ever came on full-time staff here at Heights and took the plunge and left her full-time great-paying job to take a not-paying job. But with a great team and a lot of great other benefits. And you really got to sell that hard. And not really, because God really spoke to her heart. And she's been pursuing her calling. And I think is just a great example of what it looks like when someone just says yes to what God's telling them, when someone says yes to obey everything that God's put in her heart. So Kati, we couldn't be more proud of you to see how far you've come and all that God has done in your life. We love you. We honor you. This weekend wouldn't have happened without you. And so your church family loves you and honors you. So Heights, I want you to help me do me a favor. Come on, jump to your feet and help me welcome to the stage Kati Whiting.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. You guys can have a seat. Oh, thank you so much. Pastor Josh and Crystal, I first need to honor you and thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's always an honor and a privilege to be able to share what God has placed on my heart with you all. And as he said, my name is Kati Whiting, and I'm the Executive Director of Ministry here at Heights. And that just simply means that I oversee Heights kids, Heights students, and our small groups. And I really, honestly, truly do love what I get to do here. My husband and I, Brandon Whiting, we have been together and married for just over 2.5 years, together for just over 7 years. Brandon is also here on staff as the executive campus director. I love having the same schedule as him and being able to serve on the same team. It definitely comes with some challenges, but overall, I'm telling you, it is pretty awesome. I have a picture of Brandon and I. Did you guys put that up already? Yeah, that's us. If you hear a lot of amening and a lot of feedback from over here on this side, it's because he's sitting over there. He's going to cheer me on this morning. He's one of my biggest fans. Weren't the kids awesome? That was so amazing, right? So good, so good. I couldn't take the smile off my face. Our Heights Kids team serves relentlessly every single Sunday to help create an experience for our Heights kids, for them to experience God just like we are experiencing God over here. Can we just give it up one more time for our Heights kids and our Heights Kids Dream Teamers? They're amazing. I know not all of you get to see what happens over there every single Sunday, but I'm telling you, it's not childcare, it's not babysitting, it is church, y'all. It is church. So today we're going to start out with a theme verse, and our theme verse comes from Hebrews 12, 1 through 2. It's going to be up here on the screen. I want you to follow along as I read, and I'm reading from the New Living Translation. Follow along with me. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame. Now he is seated in the place of honor beside God's throne. Now, this is a theme verse that we're going to be using today, but I didn't feel like that I could talk about this theme verse without talking about what comes before this theme verse. And there's the chapter that comes before is Hebrews 11, and Hebrews 11 is where we learn about living by faith, and it gives example after example of different people in the Bible that lived by faith. It said, by faith Abel, by faith Enoch and Moses and Abraham and Sarah. All of these people lived by faith, and we have their stories to read about. And what is faith? Hebrews 11 also addresses what faith is, and it says Hebrews 11:1, it says, faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things that we cannot see. Hebrews 11:3 says, by faith we understand that the entire universe was formed at God's command, that what we now see did not come from anything that can be seen. According to Merriam-Webster, faith is trust or belief in. And I could sit here and I could tell you all of these definitions. I could give you description or explanation after explanation of what faith is, but I truly believe that the best description of faith is a faith that is lived out, a faith that is actually seen. And I'm sure you've heard the saying, actions speak louder than words, and this is true when it comes to faith. What we do says so much more about who we are than what we say, so much more than the words that come out of our mouths. What we do says so much more. Now, when I was in high school, I was on the track team. I was on the track team all 4 years. I was a mid-distance sprinter, and I ran many different relays. I also ran individual events, but one of my favorite ones by far was the women's 4x4 relay. I loved competing with a team. I loved being able to work towards a common goal with a group of girls, and I just loved the race in general. It could start one way and completely end a different way based on the team that was put together. And I actually went and I found some pictures of myself running that I wanted to share with you guys. So I actually have a picture of me running. I actually was running the first leg of the race here. So the gun had just gone off and we just started running. This is at Fork Union Military Academy, not too far away. And then I have another picture of a team of girls that I ran with. I know it looks like they took this picture of me yesterday, but I promise you this picture is more than 10 years removed. I just have really good genes. I'm aging really well. So this is a team of girls that I ran with pretty frequently, and we got really close, and we were able to really be able to get the transitions right. We were working towards common goal. And every time before a track meet, our coach would strategically place us in different parts of the race based off the strengths that we had. Some of us were really good at starting the race. Some of us were really good at ending the race. Some of us were really just great sustainers and holding the position. And he would use this formula that most track coaches uses. So that the first person, you always want it to be somebody that is your best or second best runner, because you want somebody that's going to get you in a good position for the rest of the race. And then your second person is somebody that you want to be a strong competitor. This is somebody that doesn't mind throwing around some elbows and to get through a crowd, to get past all of those people. And then your third person is going to be a great sustainer. This is somebody that's going to be able to hold that position that the first and second runner got the team in. And then your last person is going to be someone like my husband that hates to lose, and in the last 100 to 120 meters is going to give it all that they have to be able to win the race. And just like my coach would strategically place us in specific places in the race, God has done that for us as well. God has placed us in 2019 for a reason, because just like my coach used our strengths to strategically place us, God has also done that with us. We have gifts and talents and strengths that He wants to use in this generation. There's a reason why He didn't place us in the generation before. There's a reason why He hasn't placed us in the generation to come, because our strengths are best used in this generation. Our faith is best lived out now. And just like the position that each runner was in a race, there was also an important part of the race to continually practice, and that was the exchange zone. The exchange zone. So if you know anything about running track and relays, you know that in a relay you have something that's called a baton, and this is what helps keep the race going from teammate to teammate to teammate. And so it's very important that this baton gets passed in a way for your team to win. So I remember we would spend entire practices, like whole designated 2-hour practices on just passing the baton. Not running fast, not sprinting. We would literally spend hours just passing this baton because it was so crucial to the final result. So we would practice things like receiving the baton in the right hand. I have a picture actually of us practicing this is actually at a meet, but this is me passing the baton. So you always wanted to grab it in your left and then switch it to the right running hand. And so you had to do that within this exchange zone. Some other things that we would practice is if we accidentally dropped the baton, we would practice retrieving the baton to make sure that we didn't mess up any other runners that were also running the race, because if you messed up the other runners, you could possibly be disqualified. But one of the most important things that we practiced in regards to the exchange zone was we practiced staying within the exchange zone. Because if you didn't pass the baton from one teammate to the other within the exchange zone, if you went past that line, your team would be disqualified. You would keep running, the rest of your team would keep running, but it would mean nothing. It would mean nothing. The only thing it would be good for is for you to see what your practice has done and to record your time. But in regards to winning the race, you would lose your opportunity. You would lose your chance. And as Christians, as the church, we have an exchange zone. We have an exchange zone where it's on us to be able to pass something from generation to generation. And that thing is our baton of faith. Our faith in God is what we are called to pass in the exchange zone. And without a smooth transition during a sloppy exchange, this can impact, just like in a regular relay race, this can impact the final result. There are lots of issues that are facing the world today. There are so many things that we could sit and talk about, things that we need to address and things that we need to fix. And I believe a lot of these things can be stemmed back to a faith issue, to a lack of faith that is present in our current generation. And as I was preparing for this message, I was thinking about different generations. I was thinking about the generation of the kids that attended Diamond Night on Friday. I was thinking about the generation of children that you got to see this morning. I was thinking about the generation that I fall under. I was thinking about the generation that my mom falls under. And I picked out the four most recent generations that most of us in this room fall under. And I want us to think about each one of these generations as a different leg of the race. And so we start with our baby boomers. Our baby boomers are anybody that was born between the years of 1946 to 1963. This is our first runner. This is our best, our strongest runner. And some things that they value is they valued family commitment. They valued the family unit and staying together. And they also valued living an honorable life, but not just an honorable life, but an honorable life pleasing to God. And then our second leg of our race, remember this is the leg of the race, so they don't mind throwing some elbows if they have to get in a good position, is our Gen X generation. And they're born between 1964 and 1981, and they value family and religion above all. And if you remember, I said the baby boomers, they value family and religion as well. So it sounds like there was a good exchange. There was a good exchange of the baton being passed from one generation to the next. That faith got passed from the baby boomers to the Gen X generation. However, during this Gen X generation, the divorce rates did slowly begin to rise. And then our third leg of the race is our millennials. And millennials, also known as Gen Y, were born between the years of 1982 and 1995. And remember, I said that the third leg should be the sustainer. So we should see, when we look at the millennials, we should see that they value family, and we also should see that they value religion. However, when I was doing research, this is not what I found. My heart actually broke because what I found was the generation that I fall under, they still value family. However, they decided to replace religion with professional and educational achievements instead, because they had experienced something less than faith. They had experienced something less than what our God has to offer. So that baton was not passed. That baton, that exchange was sloppy. That exchange was not smooth, and it was not passed on to them. And then our fourth leg of the race, remember, we said that this was somebody that we wanted to be the strongest competitor, hates to lose. It's going to give it all they've got at the end, and that's our Gen Z generation. Gen Z, they were born between the years of 1996 to the present. This is the most recent generation that has been identified. And I think when you see some of the things that I found, you'll see that again, because of that poor exchange, it didn't get passed to this generation. I found that this generation is the most racially, ethnically, and sexually diverse generation in American history. And I think the thing that broke my heart the most was that they called this generation the post-Christian generation. They call them that because they have little to no exposure to church or Christianity. And you can see that in the results of another study that I found. It said that the life expectancy of young adults and teenagers and children has been declining in the last 3 years. This is the greatest decline that we've seen since World War I. And they said that the reason for this decline of American young adults is declining is because they're turning to drugs and suicide to heal the brokenness that they have inside. They're turning to things that they were never meant to turn to, that they don't know that they have a Savior that can save them from all the hurt and the pain that this world brings. But the baton was not passed to them to be able to see that. So these drug overdoses and suicide is what they're turning to heal the brokenness that they feel inside. The baton was not properly passed. However, it's not too late. And I refuse to allow us to surrender a generation. And that's why Heights Church, we're doing things like Diamond Night. That's why we're doing things like OCM, child sponsorship. That's why we do things like Heights Kids Takeover. Because there's a generation of children that need the faith that we have. They need the baton that we have in our hand, and we need to make sure that it gets passed to them in the right way. However, I do have a little bit of good news, that we're not the only generation that has not passed the baton, that hasn't had the smoothest transition in the exchange zone. Judges 2:7 says, the people worshiped God throughout the lifetime of Joshua and the time of the leaders who survived him, leaders who had been in all of God's great work that he had done for Israel. And some of you might be saying, well, Katie, that sounds great. It sounds like the exchange went smoothly. What are you talking about? They worshiped God. They'd seen all of these miracles. What are you talking about? And there was a smooth exchange to that generation of Joshua. But if you just read 3 verses later, you will see something happened. Something got dropped. Judges 2:10-13 says, eventually, the entire generation died and was buried. That generation of Joshua that worshiped God, that loved God, that served God, they died and they were buried. And then, I think this is the verse that broke my heart the most and brought tears to my eyes as I was placing it in my sermon. It said, and then another generation, a Gen Z generation grew up. And that they didn't know anything of God or the work that he had done for Israel. The people of Israel did evil in God's sight. They served Baal gods. They deserted God. They turned to things like drugs and suicide. The God of their parents who had led them out of Egypt, they took up with other gods, gods of the peoples around them. And that's why I'm so passionate about us getting it right, because it's not too late. It's not too late for us to make a smooth exchange in the exchange zone. It is critical that we get it right, because I refuse to be called the generation that didn't allow the church to continue. I refuse for us to be called the generation that didn't pass their faith on, that got lazy, that got sloppy. I refuse to let that be the defining factor of who we are. And I'm passionate about helping us do that, Heights Church. So let me show you what generational impact looks like. Because I can tell you that even though it seems like it's not being done, there are still stories and lives that are being changed. And the baton is still being passed. I had an opportunity to interview one of our very own, Bailey Clyde. Bailey has been overseeing Heights students for the last year, and let me tell you, she's an incredible woman of God. And I got an opportunity to interview her and hear her testimony. And I want to show you what generational impact looks like. I want to show you what a smooth exchange looks like. Check it out. So Bailey, you're 25 years old. You've known Pastor Josh and Crystal since you were 5. Tell us, how did you get to know where you are now, and how has the church shaped your life?
Yeah, so just to rewind a little bit, when I was 5 years old, I had a childhood best friend, and our parents actually went to high school together. And her dad was on staff with Community Church, which is the church that Pastor Josh's dad founded and pastored. And through that camp, I just got involved with the church. And I remember when that year started, I started kindergarten, and there was this couple that came and picked up all the kids in my neighborhood on this bus. And through that, I just got super plugged in from such a young age. And ever since then, I just went to church every Sunday. My parents aren't believers, so they didn't come to church with me. So through this bus, I was able to go, and all the kids and just all the memories. I just remember worshiping like we do here at Heights, and all the dances and the games, and the camp again was just such an impactful moment. And I continued going as I got into middle school and I got into high school, and I started serving on Sunday mornings. I started serving at our youth group. I went on my first missions trip when I was in high school, and the church just really had an impact on my life. All the leaders, all the encounter nights where we'd have worship, and the whole church would be there, and we'd be in the presence of the Lord, and we would just be on our hands and our knees and just crying out to him. And I got to experience that as a young age, and that was so impactful, and it just shaped my life in a huge way. And I can't imagine like where I would be without that church and without my leaders and people who just made an impact in my life. It truly just shaped who I am now.
Yeah, so it sounds like the church has been a part of your life from a very early age, and just knowing more about you, Bailey, knowing that that's still true, and you're about to go to Peru for 6 months and be a missionary intern with one of our partner churches. Did you think that you'd ever be doing something like this?
No, it's so crazy. I can't imagine like I'm going to a foreign country for 6 months. I don't speak Spanish, so it's gonna be a crazy experience, but I'm really excited. And I think back to the Whitlows have an amazing relationship with the pastors down in Peru, and so I'm not surprised that this is what God had in store for me. It's cool because I don't get to see God's full picture, but I get to see parts of it as I walk with him and as I just take this journey. I think about it in puzzles because I love puzzles, but God has the ultimate picture of the whole puzzle, but he's just giving me pieces as I go along, and I walk in his will for my life. And so I'm excited for what's to come. I'm so grateful for the church and just the Whitlow family and just everything that led up to me being here in this moment. Obviously, it was God's plan all along, and I'm just so excited for what's to come in the future. The best is yet to come. So, yeah.
That's so good. So it sounds like the church has given you lots of moments to experience God, and I know that you've learned so much from these moments. Can you share with us what you've learned, and also help us realize that it's not the next generation, it's the now generation, that there's a generation of children that are waiting on us to help them experience God, because there are more Baileys out there, and they're 5 years old, and they are just waiting to have their now moment, and we have a part to play in that.
Yeah, so I just think back to all the leaders that impacted my life, and some of them were married with tons of kids, and some of them were college students, and some were pastors, and just all these people decided to take time, whatever it looked like, to invest in my life, whether it was on a Sunday morning or bringing me McDonald's on my birthday, like all those little things. It was people who decided to follow what God had for them, to make disciples, to impact people's lives, no matter what age they're at. And we might be raising up the next generation, but we need to do it now. We need to impact them and allow them to have moments to experience God, whether it's they're 5 or 15 or 82, whatever it is. They need to have a moment. They need to have an encounter with the Lord, and it takes all of us. It takes a village, and it just is something that impacted my life and something that I know can change someone's life. And so when we do it at a young age, and they're allowed to have that moment, that just completely transforms their life. It sets them up for what's to come, and they can be world changers. And I'm excited to see what God's going to do in their lives as they continue to grow and hopefully grow in the church, because the church impacted my life and has allowed me to be where I'm at right now, and I couldn't be more grateful.
Well, thank you, Bailey, for sharing your testimony with us. We're excited to see what God is going to do through you in Peru, and I just want to let you know we love you.
Yeah, love you guys too.
It's about the 5th time I've seen that video, but it brings tears to my eyes every single time. Because Bailey said it herself in that video, that her parents weren't Christians. So what does that tell me? It tells me that the baton of faith didn't have to be passed by her parents, that it could be passed by somebody else. And that's us, guys. That's us. There was a smooth transition, and Bailey's life is forever impacted because of it, because there were people that stood up and shared their faith with her. And now she's going to go and do even more things for God and more great things for God, because there was a smooth transition of the baton of faith in the exchange zone. So in order for us to pass the baton of faith, we need to live out our faith. There's no better definition of what faith is than a faith lived out. Our children, our family, our friends, they need to see what a 25-year-old faith looks like. They need to see what a 40-year-old faith looks like. They need to see what a 65-year-old faith looks like, because being able to see it is going to make an impact in their life. We need to show them what faith is. So if you're going to live out your faith, your race will always start with a starting line. Relays always start at a starting line. There's always a line that you start at, and then there's always a bang. There's always a gunshot that goes off to initiate your race. And so this starting looks like a moment. You need to have a moment, an encounter. We need to have encounters with God. We need to experience Him. We need to experience the love that He has for us. And if you're not in the race now, I promise you, just hold on just for a few more minutes, because we're going to give you an opportunity to be able to experience that love and to get in the race, to start at that starting line. But for those of you that are already running, these are the things that we need to do to continue to experience God. We need to regularly attend our Sunday experiences. We need to be in the house of God. And I'm not saying that you have to be at church to experience God, but I'm telling you that it makes a difference. Make it a priority to be here every single Sunday. Be involved in the things that we're doing at Heights Church. I'm telling you, we're doing it so much. So come to Girls' Night. Come to Diamond Night. Come to 21 Days of Prayer. Put yourself in atmospheres where you can experience the God that can change your life. And don't just bring yourself, bring somebody with you to make sure that baton of faith gets passed from one generation to the next. So your race will always start with a starting line, a moment. And then the next part of your race will be to start running. The gunshot is going off and you're going to start running, and it's going to be easy at first. People are going to be cheering you on. You're going to be filled with adrenaline. You're going to just feel the wind, and it's going to be awesome. But then there's going to get to a point in your race where it's going to get hard. It's going to get hard to breathe. Your feet are not going to want to move. Your arms are going to get heavy. Your legs are going to feel like weights. And if you remember in our theme verse, it says, "Let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up." In January, we did this series, Break Every Chain. The weights that this verse is talking about, it's talking about these weights that we wrote on that wall. It's talking about the weight of anxiety. It's talking about the weight of depression. It's talking about the weight of fear and doubt. So we need to strip off these weights so that we can run freely. And the way that we do that here at Heights is by joining a small group. We need to get around some people that are going to help us remove those weights. We need to get around some people that are going to point our eyes to Jesus. Remember, it says in Hebrews 12, it says, keep your eyes on Jesus, the source and perfecter of faith. So we need to join a small group. James 5:15 says, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so you may be healed. The earnest prayer of a righteous person has great power and produces wonderful results. We have the power to help people take off these weights and to not live sinful lives. For some of you, it just means that you need to be water baptized. You've started your race. The gunshot has gone off, but now it's time for you to be water baptized to show your faith. Show your faith. Show what God is doing in your life, how He's transforming you. And some of us just need to start reading our Bible, worshiping and praying daily, and making it a priority to be in God's Word. And so after we have started running, now we need to keep running. So our race, we just need to keep running. It says in Hebrews 1-2, it says, let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us. We are all running this race together, but God also has an individual race for each and every single one of us. He has a race that He wants each and every single one of us to run, and we need to run this race. But in order to run, we need to know why we're running in the first place. If you don't know why you're running, then if it was me, I would stop running because I don't even like running that much. If you don't know your why, then you lose your way. So if you don't understand why you're running in the first place, you're probably going to give up. And if you give up, then you're never going to win. 1 Corinthians 9:24 says, don't you realize that in a race everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win. But the only way we're going to be able to run to win is if we know why we're running, for us to experience our purpose. And the way that we need to do that, and the way we do it at Heights, is going through Next Step. It's a 2-part experience. That first experience is just discovering who we are here at Heights. And if you don't have a church family, you need to get planted in a church. And I'm not saying it has to be this one. I'm a little biased because this one's pretty awesome. But you need to find one where you can start running your race and understand why God has placed you on this planet. And the second part of Next Steps is discovering your purpose. Discovering what gifts and talents that you have, what strengths you have. And then there's other ways. Take the spiritual gifts test. Figure out what your spiritual gifts are and start using those. Start fine-tuning those to benefit others. And for some of you, it may just look like just being obedient and saying yes to serving, because some of you are not going to get answers from tests. You're going to take a test and you're going to say, oh, that's great, but what do I do? Just say yes. That's what I did. That's exactly what I did. I was teaching first grade. The last thing I wanted to do on my weekend was something else with children. As much as I love children, I wanted a break. I think a lot of you parents understand where I'm coming from. But I heard God tell me, Katie, I gave you gifts. I gave you talents for a reason. And if you don't use them, then what did I give them to you for? So I said, yes, I'll serve in Heights Kids. Yes, I'll serve every single Sunday. Yes, there's that need there. Yes, I'll do that too. And you know what God did in the process? He put me here. I wasn't supposed to be a first grade teacher. I was supposed to serve His church. And it was because I said yes. So some of you need to simply just say yes. And I promise you, He'll reveal to you your purpose. And then the fourth thing that we need to do after we've continued to run is that we need to pass the baton of faith. We need to pass it on. When you start making a difference in the lives of others, you are ensuring that the baton of faith gets passed to the next generation. You're ensuring that it gets passed. And remembering when we're making a difference that it's not about us. It's not about us and what we can do and what our gifts and talents are. It's about serving our God and keeping our eyes on the one that created us and loves us and can make the difference in our generation. So join the dream team. Start making a difference in the lives of others. Start using those gifts that God has given you. For some of you, it means that you need to lead a small group. God has placed a passion in your heart, and He wants you to use that. Guys, other people are waiting on us. There are more Baileys. There are more children. There are more people that are waiting on us. They're waiting for an invite to church. They're waiting to hear how God is transforming you, how He has transformed your life. They're waiting to see what faith looks like. I don't want it to be said of our generation that we didn't pass the baton of faith in the exchange zone. 2 Corinthians 6:2 says, "For God says, at just the right time I heard you. On the day of salvation I helped you. Indeed, the right time is now." Today is the day of salvation. The time to act is now. Because the truth is, it's not the next generation. It's the now generation, and the time to act is now.